I'm Judy Shaw for NYSE Floor Talk. Joining me today is Lynn Martin. Lynn is President, Fixed Income and Data Services at Intercontinental Exchange. Hi, Lynn. It's great to have you on the show.
Hi, Judy. Thanks for having me.
A quick note to our viewers, this interview is for informational purposes only. The NYSE doesn't recommend any investments or investment strategies. All right, now, Lynn, ICE has a long history of providing ESG-related offerings. It was one of the first players in regional emissions markets. It's a major carbon trading venue and offers various ESG tools for market participants. How does data fit into this ICE ESG story?
Yeah, Judy, that's a great question. At the end of the day, as you point out, we have a long history of providing ESG-related offerings. And when you think about our core mission at ICE, it's really about providing transparency to customers. Transparency can really take a lot of different forms. At ICE, you probably know us as providing transparent venues for firms to manage risk throughout. However, data is a natural extension and also an important input to that ecosystem. So when I think about our data offerings, I'm very focused on continuing the tradition that we have at ICE, which is to provide transparency about risks in the market that really allow our global user base to manage whatever risk that is in their portfolio, of which the ESG pillars are certainly emerging risks that are in investors' portfolios.
Okay, now last January, ICE announced that it was rolling out a new data service to help investors better assess the ESG risks and opportunities in corporations. Can you give us any update on that announcement and what's happened since then?
Yeah, so last January, we actually had a couple of different announcements. We announced the launch of our climate risk product, which provides transparent metrics alongside individual CUSIPs to really service the muni trading community, the municipal bond trading community. But we also announced a partnership, a really important partnership to us with Bank of America around the concept of providing the transparency I just mentioned around the emerging ESG risks in the market. Bank of America uses our core data set, our ESG reference data, which has more than 500 attributes in the environmental, social, and governance risk area, as the core building block for their ESG meter service, which is the equivalent of their rating. They've rolled out ESG meter in 8 sectors already, with more to come at the end of the year. If I look at our database, we're covering 3,000 different institutions now globally, and we have plans to expand that to nearly 6,000 companies by the end of the year. So by the end of the year, we will be able to provide our global customer base with quantitative, non-opinion-based metrics on 500 different attributes across 6,000 global companies.
All right, and now the pandemic, it really seems to have accelerated trends within ESG investing. Can you talk about why you think there's been such a surge in demand for ESG data?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. You know, firstly, ESG covers the social pillar, and clearly everything that happened last year with COVID, with various social unrest, really highlighted how companies think about their social programs that they employ for their workforce. But importantly, last year, I like to say, was the year of ESG, because for the first time, you really saw those companies that embedded risk management techniques around environmental, social, and governance attributes into their portfolio outperform your more traditional benchmarks. Specifically, you look at, even in the height of the volatility, you saw money flowing out of your traditional equity funds, but you saw money flowing into those funds that had an ESG lens. And why were they doing that? Because the returns that were being attributed to those different portfolios were outperforming the market.
All right, and finally, Lynn, in honor of Earth Day, can you share any stats or facts from ICE's environmental data that really stood out to you?
Yeah, so we've been looking at it's a really interesting database that we've developed, and one of the more interesting stats that we've found is that our data shows that 43% of U.S. large cap companies are reporting their carbon emissions. But the data is really showing us that companies are planning to do more. In fact, 25% of the companies in our top 1,000 index, which we call the ICE 1000 index, have said that tracking climate change, as outlined by the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 13, is one of the company's top objectives. Now, when you think about the new administration in the US and a lot of what some of our global customers are talking about, they're talking about tackling climate change. They're talking about net zero emissions by certain dates. So this is an area that we see our top companies that we cover really starting to disclose more information about and really make significant moves in.
All right, Lynn, it's been wonderful to talk with you in honor of Earth Day. Thank you so much for joining me on NYSE Floor Talk.
Thanks for having me, Judy.